Get going. Thanks for joining. So this little talk wanted to do about 4 steps to lose weight and get toned. As I go through the talk, you'll see me talk about things in seasons, but you can just use the word seasons and steps interchangeably for this, and that'll make a little more sense. All right. So let's get to it. So first I wanted to start by telling you guys a little bit about me. I think everybody here pretty much knows me, but just to add a little extra, I was a dental hygienist for 10 years, and I started studying nutrition on the side just for a personal journey because I found myself stuck in a super unhealthy relationship with food. I was kind of caught in a binge eating cycle, rinse and repeat, just going through that. And I realized I really had to do something to get out of that because it was having an impact on every other area of my life. Everything else seemed to be going well. Work was good, friends, family. But whenever you don't have a handle on your food and you're feeling out of control there, or you're not feeling super confident in your body, it can kind of put a dark cloud over everything because you need to eat to survive and you need to live in your body. So that's not anything that you can get away from. Just let some other people there in the room. Perfect. So we're just getting started. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it a little bit. There we go. So I started doing it just for me, but the more I learned and the better my life got, I realized this is something that I just want to share with as many people as possible. And so here I am. I started doing it on the side for fun, got into coaching, and I've recently jumped into it full time. So that's what I'm doing now. So before we kind of get started, I want to talk a little bit that as I first got into the coaching space in the nutrition world, I was always a little hesitant to talk about weight loss and try to, put that in my messaging as a goal because I never wanted people to feel like their life would get better just because they got smaller. I never wanted people to associate the shape of their body with their worth. I was really fired up and passionate to help people about the things I went through, digestive issues that came with binge eating, missing out on fun things because you're feeling out of control around food, feeling confident in your body and your clothes. But then I realized a lot of these symptoms and a lot of these things kind of stemmed from previous attempts at trying to lose weight. So I realized I'm not really helping anybody if I'm not tackling these core desires that they have. So my biggest dream is that I can help people with those core desires, the things that they want. But my hope is that you can go through this journey of weight loss and physical changes from a place of love and respect for yourself and not be stuck and putting your life on hold and waiting to be happy when you lose weight or waiting to do these fun things when the scale goes down. So I will just pop over to this next slide because if there's anything that you take from this whole presentation as we go through, I hope it's a very deep and real belief that what you eat and how you look has no impact on your worthiness as a human. So if there's anything that sticks with you today as we go through this, I really hope that it's that one line and it's a big, deep belief for you. I'm hoping that I can kind of change the flow from I'll be happy when this happens, when I lose 10 pounds, to I'll be happy while I'm on this journey. So that's just my, biggest hope for this. So that being said, I just needed to get that off my chest. And I don't think weight loss is a bad goal. I think it's great to do things that prioritize your health. And I think it's fun to try to challenge yourself to see what you're capable of. I just wanted to come from a place of love for yourself. So with that being said, the reason for this topic for the webinar came from just realizing this is what a lot of people were looking for. The biggest thing I noticed when people were asking me for help was they wanted to lose weight and get toned. Those were the biggest things I saw. I went and looked through over 20 initial intakes from clients I've had in the past and over 60 people that were in this Facebook, and those were the top 2 goals. So I want to be able to help people with that. So the biggest thing that I wanted to bring up to start was where we get stuck in that cycle is people are trying to do everything all at one time, which is really hard on the body because to lose weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit. So that means taking in less than our body is expending. So you need to be eating less fuel than your body needs in that moment in time. But to get that toned look, we need to build muscle because the muscle, it fills up the space in your body and it kind of stretches the skin. And that's what gives you that tight toned look. But to build muscle, you need to be eating more calories than your body's burning. So physiologically, the body can't be in those two states at one time. You can't be in a calorie deficit and in a calorie surplus all at the same time. So that's where we run into problems, trying to tackle the two at the same time. It might sound familiar to you if you have been trying to build muscle and lose weight at the same time, where you're eating less because you want to lose weight. So that means you're bringing in less fuel, but then you want to build muscle. So you're pushing it extra hard at the gym. So that means you're trying to work out with this less energy coming in. So a couple things happen. You end up getting burnt out really quick and quite tired. So when you're eating less and work out really hard, that calorie deficit becomes a bit too big. So then your body's screaming for extra fuel. And that usually looks like really intense carvings for like the sugary sweets and carbs and stuff. So then finally our body, when it's fighting through that, you end up caving and you have a weekend where you're like, fine, I'm done with the diet. I'm just going to eat all the things that my body's asking for. And then you feel defeated. And then Monday comes back around and then you're like, I'm just going to work harder. So then you eat even less and work out even harder. And then the cycle kind of repeats. So I want to point that out just so you know, if that's ever happened to you, you're not lazy. It's hard to work out because you have less fuel. You don't lack willpower. Your body's not getting what it needs for what you're trying to do. So it's not you. It's just the system that you've tried didn't work for you. So that gives us a lot of opportunities for doing things in the future. So that's the biggest thing to notice there. Try not to tackle both at the same time. And I wanted to add this here at the bottom about healing your relationship with food. It's good to do that with no focus on calorie or outside physical changes. So if you're having any type of binge eating or feeling a lot of guilt or shame around food or restricting, if there's any stress or anxiety around food, I'd recommend, working on that and putting physical changes on the back burner because it's hard to do the two at the same time. So you might be looking in that and be like, well, dang it, I want to do all three. Like I do have goals to lose weight, build muscle, and I do want to have a stress-free relationship with food. And you can. This doesn't mean that you can't do all of these things. The focus I want to put on here is to not try to tackle it all at once. That's where you end up working really hard and spinning your tires. So in order to, achieve all these goals without doing it all at one time, that's where we need to split things up into different seasons. And that's called nutritional periodization. So I'll explain a little bit more about what that is on the next slide. But I also just wanted to bring attention to this little phrase here, where every dose of stress requires a dose of recovery. So our bodies aren't robots, they're not machines. Whenever we're putting stressors on our body, we need to focus on also giving it some recovery. So a diet, that's a stressor because it's bringing our body out of balance. So we need to recover after that. There has to be a planned period of recovery where we're healing our body after the stress we put it through. But sometimes we just keep adding on the stressors. We go from diet to diet to diet, or we jump from diet to really trying to push it in the gym. And so there's actually no planned recovery in there. So just keep that in mind anytime you're doing something with your body. If there's a dose of stress, make sure that you have an answering dose of recovery. So moving forward to nutritional periodization. So this is a concept of splitting our goals and our priorities into different seasons. So an easy way to visualize this is to look at an athlete because they do this with their sports seasons. They split it up. There's a preseason, in season, a postseason, and an off season. So I'm going to just explain a little bit of how that looks for an athlete, because then whenever we're talking about it on a journey to weight loss, there's a lot of, it pairs up really well and it makes it a lot easier to visualize and understand. So let's imagine a NFL football player. So their preseason is whenever they're, just starting to play. They're not going 100% into it because they don't want to get injured for their in season. They are just getting used to the team and how it works. They're, checking on the other teams, seeing what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they're preparing all their game plans and all their plays. The in season is whenever they're actively pursuing their goal, and their goal is winning. Like, it's winning the Super Bowl. That's their one priority. During this stint of in season, that's their one mission. So their family, their friends, they know that they're going through this in season. They know that they won't be spending as much time with them. Their body and their mental strength takes a beating because they're going all in on their sport. So that's what their in season looks like. They're single focused here. So say we were talking about weight loss, I'll go into that a little bit farther, but the in season part would be like when you're actively dieting and actively trying to lose the weight. So I just want to make a note that imagine an NFL player, if he was playing like he plays in season, like going all in, that's his only focus. If he was doing that 12 months out of the year, his body just wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, he'd be crushed, he'd be burnt out, he'd get injured, his performance would go way down because there's no recovery and there's no balance. He'd probably end up hating the sport and be thinking that he sucks at football. But we can look at that logically and know that no, he's not a bad player. It's just that he's been in season for too long and his body's breaking down, and his mental strength is breaking down. So it's not him, it's that he's been stuck in this season. So if you feel like you've been, actively trying to lose weight or try to diet for the last 10 years, you may just be burnt out and you may be missing these other steps, these other seasons where you have to recover and prepare to be able to handle it. So just I didn't want to forget that. So after they're in season, they've given their all, they won the Super Bowl. They don't just go back to whatever they were doing before. They have to recover after that. So they have a postseason where they kind of take some time off. They focus on healing their body so that when the next season comes, they're ready to go. They're not still walking around on a broken ankle. They've went to rehab. They, healed up all their body. They got stronger. So postseason is all about recovery. You can think about athletes when they're in that super stressful zone. Their hormones from all that high stress are going to take a beating. So you're going to have to recover your hormones, their gut health, because they've probably been taking in so many calories so that they can really push it and build that strength. So they got to recover their gut health. So postseason is all about recovery. Off season is all about maintaining their healthy lifestyle so that when season comes around, they just have to do a couple tweaks and adjustments. They identify as a fit and healthy person, as an athlete, and they live their life accordingly. So when in season comes, they just have to dial it up just one notch, not 12, so that they're ready to go. They also find a little bit more balance here with their lifestyle. They get to spend more time with their family and friends so that they have a life to return to after they're in season. So they nurture those things. And they take a look back at their season, see where their weaknesses were, what things that they could have worked on better. And this is where they work on building new skills. So try to keep that idea in mind. And now we'll look at what these seasons look like when you're trying to tackle weight loss. So we're going to start just with in season right here, because this is usually where most people are. They're actively attempting to diet. So this looks like putting yourself in a calorie deficit, prioritizing your diet. There's less flexibility, there's less balance. It doesn't mean you have to give up everything you love, but because this is your priority, you might make different choices so that it aligns with your future goal. You might not have to cut out alcohol altogether, but you might say, hey, I'm going to choose the alcohol that's maybe lower in calories or has a bit less sugar, and I'll have one instead of five. Maybe I'll go out and see my friends, but I'll come home at 11 so I can sleep really well and have a good day the next day. You just decide on the things that are worth it for you that still bring you to your goal. And if we really have that deep belief of what we said at the start, where what you eat and how you look doesn't impact your worthiness as a human, then you can come at this dieting phase understanding that you're making a conscious choice to do this because you want to. You don't have to do it for anybody else. You don't have to do it because if we're a smaller human, we're more accepted. So when you come from it from that way, it's a lot easier to stick with your goals because you know that you're choosing to do it, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything. And over here, I like to make a little note because oftentimes during this phase in the dieting season, people tend to feel really restricted and they feel like they're exhausting their willpower. But that feeling of restriction and the feeling of needing to use your willpower, that comes up when it feels like we're suppressing a desire. But if you spend some time in like the preseason preparing yourself for this phase, and you work on your mindset and you understand what your like core desire is, and if you truly believe that your core desire is that you want to do this to challenge yourselves and to be the healthiest you can be, and you have a solid understanding of your why and why you're doing it, you won't feel restricted and you won't feel like you need to use your willpower all the time because you're not suppressing your core desire, because your core desire is wanting to do this for X, Y, and Z reasons. It only feels like you're feeling really restricted if you're not really clear on the why you're doing it and why it's important to you. So that's what the in season looks like when you're working on weight loss. It's when you're actively pursuing your goal and making your choices that line up with wanting to lose weight. So let's just have a look at the other ones. Post season, this is when you need to recover. So after somebody has gone through a dieting phase, our bodies are super smart and they always want to adapt to the situation because the only thing your body cares about is making sure that you can survive and procreate. That's all it wants to be able to do. So it wants to look after you and keep you strong. So if it noticed that there's less calories coming in, it will start to adapt your metabolism so that your body can start functioning on lower calories, because it doesn't know that this is just a temporary phase. It thinks that there's a shortage of calories coming in, so it's going to start functioning on less calories. You'll subconsciously fidget less. You'll have less energy because you're going to want to conserve what you have. So it just does a bunch of little things to make your body function on less calories. So you need this recovery phase so you can slowly bring your metabolism back up, because you don't want to be stuck. Say you've dieted and then it feels like I'm not eating anything and I'm still not losing weight. It's probably because your body is now learning how to function at 1200 calories. So for you to create a calorie deficit from there, you'd have to be eating 800 calories, and that won't get you very far. So that's how we have to recover from that adaptation. So that's why you can't diet forever, because your body's going to adapt. So we need to bring it back to its balance, its homeostasis. Another thing I was going to bring up was it's called body fat overshooting, which is what you see happen sometimes when people feel like they lose 10, but then they gain 15. Because our body's in this survival mode, if we don't slowly bring ourselves out of a diet and we just kind of jump back into all our old habits, our body is kind of primed to hang on to everything. So that's why it's so much easier to gain weight right after a diet. So that's why it's super important to have an exit strategy of how you're going to bring yourself out of the diet. And in this recovery phase, we also need to restore gut and hormone health. Because dieting is a stressor, we need to give a dose of recovery. So that means restoring our gut health and hormone health. Sometimes when you're in a dieting phase, to keep things simple, you tend to eat a lot of the same stuff, or you're just eating less, so you're not getting a wider variety of fibers and nutrients that your body needs. So it's really important to plan for a recovery phase. Also good to note that say you did lose 10 pounds, your body is now physically different than it was before. So it's going to need different things than it did. So we can't just jump back to all of our old habits because those habits are what aligned with our old version of ourselves. So you'll want to take this time to decide what habits need to stay for good and what are some old habits that you need to let go of because they belong to that older version of yourself. So this is a very important part of the process too. This is one of the important steps we tend to miss is the recovery part. And then moving on, this is my favorite season. This is the step that I love the most. So this is the off season. This is equivalent to like your life. We want to spend most of our time here. This is just living your normal life, feeling great. This is when you want to work on, solidifying your lifestyle habits and creating an environment that makes it really easy to maintain the results you have. This is a great time whenever you want to heal your relationship with food. This would be the time that you want to tackle that, dig deep, get uncomfortable, do some journaling, find peace with food in your body so that if you do choose to go through an in-season, a dieting step, that you're ready for it and you can go through it efficiently and not keep hitting all these roadblocks because you're in a good place for it. This is where you'll find the right balance and flexibility that creates a healthy lifestyle that you want. I like to tell people to first focus on creating their dream lifestyle and then their dream body will follow. It's a lot more fun and it always works out. So in this off season, so this is when you could also be building muscle. You're eating enough, you're eating well because you're focusing on healing your body, healing your mindset, and you can start building some muscle and going to the gym, finding activities you like. So one way to know it when you're finally ready to be moved on from post-season and off-season, when you're ready to move past that, will be whenever your body tells you you're ready. And this is called biofeedback. It's how our body speaks to us. So we have to start paying attention to that. So I have like a little checklist I'll show you later. So you can tell like if you're ready for that next phase. But yeah, so this is what off season is. I'm hoping this makes sense. This is where you spend the majority of your time. And this is where you'll work on getting stronger and healing your relationship with food. So next up, we have preseason. So preseason is just whenever you're getting prepared. So say, I'll show you the preseason checklist afterwards. But say you're like, hey, I'm feeling good. I've checked off all these boxes. I'm ready for a dieting phase. This is just the time you spend preparing for that so that it's efficient and you see the success and progress you want. What you do is be really clear in what your goal is, give yourself a timeline and an exit strategy, and make sure you have the necessary skills. Say you want to track your food. This is a time when you'll be like, hey, I'm going to learn how to track. I'm going to practice, going to ask questions. Make sure you talk to your support systems, your friends and family, let them know that you have this goal that you want to work on so that they can support you. Lots of times people are just trying to be inclusive and loving when, they're inviting you to things and trying to push you to eat a certain way or come on, have another drink, live a little. But if you preemptively talk to them about these things that are important to you, then you'll have a lot more success because they'll know what you're going through and they'll have your back and you'll hit a lot less roadblocks on the way. So this is how preseason, the final step before you're dieting is really important. So now I'll pop into a little preseason checklist because you might be wondering, okay, so is it supposed to be like 3 months in an off season or 2 months in preseason? Like, how long am I supposed to be in each step for? And another one of the biggest takeaways, I hope, if there's any line that sticks with you today, is there's no you that's ever existed before. So there's no rule book about what will work best for you. So that's why biofeedback is really important because we can listen to our body and see how it's reacting and then plan accordingly. So just remember that there's no you that's ever existed. So the only way to know is to try. Try something, experiment with it. If it doesn't work, it's not a failure, it's just feedback. Just be a scientist with your own life and have fun with it. So next up, I created a little checklist so you would know if you're ready for this weight loss phase. I call it the preseason checklist. Feel free to screenshot this if you want, because you can use it as your own little checklist. If you're looking through this and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things on here that I still need work on, and I've tried so many things in the past and it's not been working, that's when it's a great time to have a coach, because they give a little guidance. It's not to say that you can't achieve your goals and do all these things all on your own, but it takes a lot of time. Whenever you're going through those trial and error phases, it can soak up a lot of time. And today you're the youngest you're ever going to be. So we don't want to waste any more time. So if you need a coach to help kind of, collapse time and get you to your goals faster, don't be shy to reach out, because I've been there already and made all the mistakes. And so I can help you avoid them on your way to where you want to go. So to quickly go over this preseason checklist, I have an acronym, SHREDS, just so that you can remember things easier. So S is for sleep. You want to make sure you're sleeping at least 7 to 9 hours. You've got a good routine in place. You're feeling rested. For H, we've got hunger, hormones, and hydration. You want to have an appetite, feel hungry in between meals. If you don't have an appetite, that's a sign that you haven't recovered from what you've done before, and so your metabolism is still adapted. It's not going to tell you you're hungry because it's trying to function on really low calories. For women especially, our monthly cycle is like a monthly report card. If you're regular, kind of right on the money, no pain, very little PMS, that's a great sign that your body's in a good place. Water's super important. So you can aim for drinking half your body weight in pounds in ounces of water, but a good rule of thumb is at least 1.5 liters of water. Because if you're drinking, if you're eating whole foods throughout the day, you'll get some water in there as well, but aim for at least 1.5 liters. R is for recovery. If you're recovering well after workouts, it's a good sign your body's not in pain. If you're like so much pain after a workout, it's probably because you're not intaking enough fuel to repair those muscles. So next up, we have E for energy and education. If you have consistent energy throughout the day, it's a good sign. If it's kind of going up and down and you're getting big lulls and spikes, that could mean that your blood sugar is a little out of whack. So you'll want to put some work in there to get your blood sugar levels stable before you move on to the next step. Tired and wired is whenever you wake up super tired, but then at night you get a burst of energy and you're wired. This is what happens when our cortisol levels aren't where they're supposed to be. We're supposed to naturally peak with our cortisol to wake us up in the morning, and then it's supposed to ebb away so that we can fall asleep at night. But if you're living a super high stress lifestyle, emotional or physical stress, and you're not getting that dose of recovery for every bit of stress that's in your life, your cortisol levels are what help try to protect you from that stress. They respond to those stress levels. And if you're tired and wired, that's a good sign that they're kind of out of whack. Moving on, digestion is for D. Digestion is a huge one. You want to have regular and easy bowel movements, not too fast. Things aren't moving too slow. No painful gas and bloating. You don't want to feel like your clothes are pinching into you. This digestion, I find, is a really big one because this has a huge impact on your life. Nobody's going to want to go on a date or meet new people if they're feeling super uncomfortable and gassy. Who's going to want to go camping or traveling if they don't know how their stomach's going to react? They need to feel like they have a bathroom close by, or they're afraid to go to friends' places for dinners because they're on a super restrictive diet and cutting things out, or they're not sure how they're going to react. So this is a big one. I'm very passionate about helping people with any and all types of digestion issues because I think it has a huge impact on your quality of life. Plus, with your digestion, if it's not functioning properly, you could be so dialed in with your nutrition, eating nothing but kale and broccoli. But if your digestion is, if your gut's inflamed, you're not absorbing any of those nutrients. So you're doing all that hard work for nothing. So this is a big one here. And then S for stress. Stress is ever present in our life. So it's not to say that you just need to remove all stressors in your life, because that doesn't make sense. We can't do that. There's lots of stressful things that we can't just get out of the way. But what you can do is have a good support, toolbox of stress management techniques so that the high stress stuff in your life doesn't have a huge impact on you. So you can recover from that stress. Another thing with the stress is we want to make sure we have that stress-free relationship around food. We don't associate it with our worthiness as a human. There's no foods that are good or bad. We're not good or bad depending on what we eat. There's no guilt when you're eating. My favorite line I tell all my clients is that guilt should only be used if you're doing something illegal or immoral. And eating food is neither one of those things. You feel free to feel guilty if you go burn down someone's house, but do not ever let yourself feel guilty for eating a food or eating too much of a food. If you catch yourself using that word, guilty or I'm bad, just try to catch yourself right there. And you can remember me telling you, you didn't go burn a house or do anything illegal or immoral. So do not feel guilty. And you just want to have gratitude around eating in your body. We can have bad body image days. That's okay. We don't have to be giddy about everything all the time, but we can respect and be grateful for what our body does for us, even in those moments. And under stress, you want to be able to check the box of not feeling restricted around food or feeling out of control or binging. Binging is something that I've had a lot of personal experience with. That's what got me into the nutrition coaching space. So don't be shy. It's something a lot of people tend to hide. I did anyways. So if you ever deal with anything like that, don't be shy to reach out and I can share everything that worked for me. So that's your little checklist. And I know your time is valuable, so I want to respect that and won't take up any more with this, but I do want to give you guys a chance to ask any questions if anything pops up, anything from the talk that you were curious about. Also, if you want to you can message me and I can give you a link to book a discovery call. Like if there's something personal you want to talk about or get direction with, you can always book a chat like that. But I will just stop the screen sharing here, or I can see the chat from here. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to just pop them in. I'll leave this open for a little bit because I want to make sure that I'm giving the information that you guys want and need. So I'll give you a little minute there. If there's anything you want to say or have any questions, you can do that now. I'll give you a couple minutes, but no pressure. So just one question popped in here for hormones. So wondering if some people's cycles are naturally worse than others. So I really believe that there can be improvements, even if people so they're wondering if with a history of bad cycles, are some people's just worse off than others? I really think that there's hope and always different options. So I really think that it can be improved. Yeah, so my sister just popped up there. She was saying I can use her as an example. And we found out, through changes with health and fitness, reducing inflammation, she was able to see a lot of changes with an irregular cycle that had PMS symptoms that were uncomfortable. to now like on the money know exactly what day it's coming. So yeah, I really think that it's possible to see a lot of improvement with using nutrition as a tool for that and health and fitness. So there's hope for lots of stuff. Anybody else curious about anything? Was anyone looking at the checklist and be like, heck yeah, I can cross all that off? So for a poor appetite being one of like under H for hunger as well, something that can happen. So whenever we don't have much of an appetite, sometimes it can be really hard to start eating as much as our body needs. Sometimes there's a little transition phase where even if we're looking at what we're eating, so it's good to kind of document what we're eating. And if you can see that you are physically under eating for what your body needs, through a little transition phase, you might need to eat when you're not hungry to help boost that metabolism. So it might be a little uncomfortable at the start because mentally you won't want to eat. But if we can see clearly that physically your body's not getting enough and we need to work through that, then you'd yeah, but you can make it a little easier. Keep things, start with like really small meals, and just go little by little. You don't have to go straight to smorgasbord right away. But that is one trick to help boost the metabolism up. Also, building muscle can help boost appetite because muscles are really expensive tissue and it requires a lot of energy. So if you build a little bit of extra muscle, it might turn that on to want to eat a little bit more. And Jeanette's asking a little bit more on gut health. If you do have any specific questions on gut health, because it's such a big topic and everybody's so different, with quick little answers and responses like this, I can only give general information because it takes a look at, we need to kind of look at people's histories and where they're at currently to give really good advice. But is there anything specific about gut health you're wondering? If I could, bloating and gas. So a couple things, some of the things that create bloating and gas the most, one, the easiest fix is mindfully eating and chewing your food. Chewing your food more than you think, like it needs to be liquid before you swallow it, because this is a major step of the digestion that we always skip. There's enzymes that start digesting food, especially carbohydrates, in your mouth, that the moment the food hits your stomach, those enzymes aren't present. They're in your mouth. And then when the food hits your stomach, no other digestion of those certain enzymes are happening because they were meant to happen in your mouth. So what happens is we have big blocks of food that aren't really chemically broken down or physically broken down by chewing in the enzymes in our mouth. Then it sits in our stomach and it takes so long to digest and pass through our gut that's where we get a lot of bloating and gas from. Yeah, mindful eating, we tend to be distracted. So mindful eating really helps with that. And we all do it a lot less than we think. To really sit at a meal, fork and knife, not watching a TV, not watching, going on your phone, not driving and eating or working and eating. Because what happens is our brain, as much as humans think we can multitasking doesn't even actually exist. Like if you were to, I think with computers, they can kind of show it. You're not actually doing everything at once. You're taking a lot of mini breaks between everything. So if you're eating while working, your brain is focused on working and your brain's not sending the signal to release the digestive enzymes. So then digestion gets real slow. Yeah, our world is super rush. So the mindful eating is really hard. An easy way to work, like a tactic to kind of work into that, is to warm up with foods that are cooked, smoothies, things that are already blended. I love this. Yeah, Kaya, Jeanette was saying she always feels rushed to get back to work. And yeah, it's a good idea to break that cycle and just try to slow down. We always feel rushed to go do things for other people. But see if you can take a little bit of that power back and set a timer on your phone. Give yourself at least 20 minutes. And if people are trying to rush you away, you let them know that it's your lunch break and you deserve this time. But yeah, with bloating and gas, another thing that can help warm up the digestive system is eating things that are already a little bit digested. So when you cook your food, cooked food's a little bit easier to digest. Making things into soups, smoothies, the things, it saves you a bit of time. You still have to let the enzymes hit it. You kind of want to chew your smoothies, to be honest, but at least a little bit of the work is done for you. Yeah, so that's a little bit on mindful eating and gut health. Another one, like general broad statement I can make on gut health, I would say the number one thing that improves gut health is a wide variety of plants. So if you're more like analytical and need a number, they have studies out there from the American Gut Study that 30 plants a week, 30 different types of plants a week was linked with people with the lowest and like no risk for chronic disease. So feel free to challenge yourself with that. See if you can get 30 different plants in this week. Sometimes we tend to eat like the same 4 things for 30 years. So that's a challenge to try something new at the grocery store each week. There are millions of different plants, yes. But sometimes it's fun to have a little number. The number I use is trying to get 6 handfuls of fruits and veggies in most days. Yeah, we often eat the same stuff. Jeanette bought lentils, awesome. Yeah, so all you guys I know are in the Facebook group, so we always have a new recipe. So that's a good way to challenge yourself to try new things, is try the weekly recipe out. Because it's good. That's the biggest predictor of good gut health is a wide variety of plants. Different colors are all different nutrients. So you try to eat the rainbow throughout the day. Good questions though, guys. I love that. I'm happy you guys were able to make it out because I know it's life is busy, so I appreciate your time. Does anyone have any other last little questions they wanted to throw out? Or if anything comes up later, I will put a little link. Here, I'll put a little link to my scheduling thing. If anybody ever wants to like book a call because they want to go over something or they want to see what coaching is like, I'll put that in the chat. I don't even know where I am anymore. Ah, there we go. Technology. There you go. Cool. Well, by the looks of it, I don't see any other questions coming up. I could talk about this stuff forever, but this will be recorded if you want to like go over things or like screenshot any of the stuff. If you have any other specific questions that you hope I'd make a webinar, like another live training on, you just let me know and I'd be so happy to do another one. So, but thank you guys for showing up and spending your time with me. I hope there were some helpful little nuggets in there. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Good night, guys.